What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. It's good to be with you on a Sunday afternoon, where we are going to spend some time hanging out and talking about FPV. It's a very exciting day for me today for many reasons. One of them is that at this exact moment, my editor Fabio is on an airplane. He's coming to visit me. So I'm going to be spending some time showing him around this lovely United States and hanging out. Maybe we'll even make some content. So he's getting in tonight. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe he's even, I don't think, he's probably over the ocean right now, so I doubt he's actually watching. I don't think you have internet over the ocean. I can't remember the last time I flew overseas, but Joseph Tahari says, oh man, Fabio's going to panic when he sees your pizza making game. Well, I don't know about that. I'm actually a little intimidated because I know his standards for pizza are very high. We'll have to see how it goes. It is Mother's Day. For anybody who missed that, wish your mother, I just wish my mother, I haven't actually messaged her yet. It is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there who don't understand why their children are doing with FPV drones. I am a little raspy today. You can probably hear that. My cough is getting better, but still there. That's how it is. And I know you guys are dying for an update. I know you're dying for it. Are you dying for an update on the tattoo? How's it healing? How's it looking? Hold on a second. Let me hang on 1 second. I got this ready for you. Okay. Oh. All right, and now this. Oh, I got the overhead camera. Yeah, buddy. Okay. There we go. That's how she's looking right now. Yeah. Yeah. I got the. Still, I haven't like washed it. There's still adhesive from the. There's still adhesive from the cover, the second skin they put on there. So it's a little gunky looking. It's still healing, but it's coming along. I'm super psyched about it. It's not itchy yet, Aeroscare. We have double audio. That's weird. I don't have any double audio. I'm listening to the feed. I don't have any. Blunty, you're not watching the feed.
Nope, I don't have it on our local though. Only when the overhead was on was a possible overhead cam. Has a different audio.
Oh yes, I bet that's the case. Hold on, I can fix that. Head cam. Hang on 1 second. Overhead. Hey, check. So if I mute that one, is that it? No. Overhead cam. There we go. Fixed. Yep, got it. There we go. Okay, great. Thank you. I just set that overhead cam up slightly differently than I normally do, and now that's problem solved. All right, guys. But enough with the introduction. What are we here for? We're here to talk about FPV. I'm going to be reading questions as Blunty queues them up. Blunty, thank you for the help there. And I'll be taking your questions from the YouTube chat, from the Discord, of course. Hello. Oh, Black Juggle's caught up. I can see how much delay there is in the stream by how long it takes you guys to comment on me messing up the audio. You can ask questions in the YouTube chat, in the Discord. Thank you, patrons in the Discord. And also, you can hit the $sign and leave a super chat. We'll be reading the super chats slightly later in the stream. I got something to show you, actually. I have something to show you before. Look what I did. I think you guys are going to think this is cool. Okay, quadcopter. Plug in the quadcopter. Right? It's not that interesting. Hang on, let me see if I can tilt this so you can see the LEDs. Plug the quadcopter in. Goes beep, 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 beep. Not that interesting. Okay, but check this out. You ready? Okay, hang on. And oh, and what do you think of that? What do you think of that? It's a quadcopter with a kill switch. I made a quadcopter with a kill switch. Why did I do that? I don't know. People are always asking, can you build a quadcopter with a kill switch? And traditionally the answer has been no, you can't. Because a switch that would handle the maybe 100 plus amps of a quadcopter would be really big and bulky. But I discovered that this right here, this could be brighter. This scene could be brighter. Can I fix that? No, I don't think I can. It's just not that bright. This right here is the anti-spark filter from a iFlight makes this. And it actually has this separate input here that switches the FET on and off. And so I realized that if you just put a switch, this is a magnetic switch, if you just put a switch on that, you can switch the quad on and off. Actually, the more recent version of the iFlight switch has that external pad built in and isn't externally switchable. So that was kind of annoying. But I managed to find some of the old version and made that. Here's the thing though. The idea that people have is if you get your quadcopter stuck in a tree, you want to be able to cut power to it remotely so it doesn't kill your battery. That's the thinking. How could you do that and have it be persistent? Like once it's turned off, it stays off. Or even like if you were to try to do it in such a way that you could turn it off and on again, you would need an auxiliary power supply of some kind. I don't know. But I thought it was pretty cool. A servo with external power. You could run a servo or maybe even another FET off the battery. But then the problem is you have to keep the receiver running if you want to be able to switch on and off. Once you cut power, the receiver loses power and then you're done. Yeah. So that's I don't know. I'm thinking about it. It's interesting though. I thought you guys would think it was cool. Okay. Let's start taking questions. Jonas Führer. Führer? Sorry, I don't know that German vowel. Jonas says, greetings from Germany. I flew yesterday with an incorrectly installed battery, and now there is a 1 to 2 millimeter cut from one prop in one cell. Can I still use the LiPo? If the exterior, like heat shrink, has been cut, then it's no big deal. But if the actual cell itself has been punctured, you absolutely must discard the battery. So if you smell a kind of a fruity smell, like a chemical fruity smell, or if you can literally see the black layers of carbon inside the cell, if that actual container of the cell has been punctured, it has to be discarded. If it's just superficial, then it's probably fine. Vigon Carl says, hi, I have an IMAX B6A6C Plus. Will it be able to handle parallel charging 6 4S 1500 milliamp hour LiPos? It maxes out at 5 amps. Is it okay to charge below 1C? So, yes, if it maxes out at 5 amps, so let's do the math real quick. Let's do the math real quick. Let's see, where am I going to put this? So 1500 milliamp hours times 1,000, no, divided by 1,000 is 1.5 amps. That's a 1C charge rate. You have 6 of them. That's 9 amps to hit a 1.1C charge rate. 9 divided by 5, or rather 5 out of 9, that's what I want. You're going to be charging at about 0.55C. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with charging at a low C rate, except that it takes longer to charge. But it may be worth it for you as a convenience to not have to swap the batteries. Okay? Because you'll just be able to charge all 6 of them at once without having to go restart the charging cycle. So that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The other thing you should check is the IMAX B6A Plus. B6AC Plus. What's the wattage? What's the wattage? Where are the specs? Total circuit power, 50 watts. Okay, so it's rated for 50 watts. That's the other problem. So those batteries are 1,500. 1.5 times 3.7. They are times 4 cells, I believe you said. They are 22 watt-hour batteries. So the other limitation will be the wattage of the charger. If you're charging at 5 amps, I think you're going to be okay because they're 4-cell batteries. Maybe not, though. They're charging at 5 amps times, let's say, around 4.0 volts. That's 20 watts. So the other limitation, no, you're going to be well below. Oh, no, times 6. Times 6, 120 watts. So that's the other problem. You're going to be limited by the wattage of the charger, the 50 watts. 50 watts divided by, let's say, roughly 4.0 volts. That's 12.5 divided by 6. That's 2 amps. No, that's going to be okay. It's the 0.55 amps. It's the 5 amps that's going to limit you. Okay, so you're going to charge at about 0.55 amps. And if you're okay with that, there's no harm. Should I buy a new charger? That's entirely up to you. If you were to buy a new charger, then you could charge faster. It's up to you, though. Maxi Becker wants to know, I have a 230-gram O3 air unit 3-inch quadcopter. Can I make a 20-gram naked GoPro? Is it not worth it? You can make a naked GoPro, and I don't know the exact weights, but I think they're in the 20 to 30-gram range, depending on which one you build. Will your 3-inch quadcopter carry it? Probably. Like, it's already 3-inch, 230 grams. Yeah, it'll probably carry it. The thing is, naked GoPros, the durability is really poor. So if you're planning on using it for like cinematic flying, real estate type stuff, okay. Like you kind of need the GoPro, you want the better image quality, and you don't plan to crash very much. But if you're doing freestyle, don't run a naked GoPro. Just stick with the O3 because the naked GoPro is going to break, and you just don't want that. It's just a waste of money. Because you can't get a naked GoPro with insurance. Not very well. The Hero 10 Bones had insurance. You could get it, but it's been a long time since that was the state of the art. Casper Sobchak. What analog FPV goggles have the largest screen? I tried the Orca goggles and they were small. I like the screen size on the DJI V2 goggles. So Casper, I'm sorry to tell you, there isn't an analog goggle that matches the screen size of the V2s. That's like an 80-degree field of view. The very biggest analog field of view that I remember was the HDO2, I think, or the HD2 maybe. It had a 50-degree field of view. And the problem is that once you get above about 45-degree field of view, the optics in the module that you get blurry edges, you can't see the whole thing. You would need to go to bigger optics or bigger screens, and it just kind of doesn't work in the form factor of these goggles. That's one reason why the V2 DJI goggles are so much bigger, because they're going for that giant field of view, and so they need larger screens and they need larger optics. Like the Orca Race goggles are a little smaller. They're like a 43-degree field of view. I got to tell you, though, if you've got a goggle with like a 45-ish field of view, 47-degree field of view, that's about as big as goggles in that form factor can handle without really making a problem. I hear that my washing machine is beeping in the other room. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's going to drive me crazy for the next 2 hours. So I'm going to pause right here real quick. I'm going to run and I'm going to stop my washing machine, and then I'm going to come back and we'll continue the stream. Give me 1 second. Okay. Black Jungle points out that you could go to box goggles. I don't think it's worth it. You can just use the V2 goggles. I mean, they are half decent analog goggles. RC Cosplay wants to know, will HC0 goggles ever be available in drone stores like Race Day Quads? RC Cosplay, the reason that they're not available now is that there's not enough. I think that HD Zero would be happy to give them to stores to sell, but the problem is that there's not enough margin baked in for the stores to think it's worth doing. So either it used to be that HD Zero stuff was more widely sold in stores, and there was some pushback from the stores that the margin that HD Zero was offering was not enough. Now, obviously, the stores can sell a product for whatever they want to sell it for. But let's say you've got a product and you sell it to stores for $100, okay? And you set the MSRP at, or the advertised retail price at $135. I don't know. I just made those numbers up. Well, at that point, any store that's selling it for $140 is going to look like they're ripping people off. $150. So if you've got a product and you sell it to stores for $100 and you've got it in your own store for $120, and the store says that's not enough margin, I'm losing money in terms of the labor that I have to pay somebody to shelve it, to pack it, to ship it, in terms of the retail space that I have to lease a building to put the products in. Every product that a store carries has a certain amount of overhead that they have to cover, and then never mind profit, because everybody would like to make some profit so they can have a nice dinner now and then. So the idea, I think, is that HD Zero doesn't want to raise the price of the goggles any more than they already are. So HD Zero sells the goggles in their store for whatever the price is, like $600, I think, $550, I don't remember. And the margin that HD Zero offers to retailers is not enough, and the retailers just say, "Sorry, we're not going to cover it. We're not going to sell it. Carry it. That's it." And then HD Zero goes, "Fine, we'll just sell it in our store." And so either the store would have to sell at a higher price than HD Zero's store, at which point people would just be mad at the store and say, "You're ripping us off," and go buy it from HD Zero. Or HD Zero would have to agree to sell at a higher price to give some margin to the retailers. But then HD Zero would have to accept that their charge, maybe customers would be a little bit annoyed at HD Zero that their goggle was so expensive. So what about the Walksteel Goggles X V2? What's the Goggles X V2? The Goggles X are still on pre-order. What's the Goggles X V2 update? Are there rumors about the Goggles X getting a V2 update? I missed that, if so. Opinions on the Tiny Hawk Freestyle. I'm a big fan of it. I reviewed one a long, long time ago. I think it's still a pretty good product for the price. $140. It flies really good. It's nice and durable. The biggest weakness of this product is that it uses Emacs proprietary parts, like the flight controller is really all integrated. So if you break something, you're going to need to buy more Emacs hardware. You're not going to have as much flexibility. Even Emacs motors, I think, have a weird proprietary motor mounting. So it's not a bad sort of gilded cage to get locked into, but it is sort of locking yourself in there. People are saying that the V2 is just the thermal issues fixed. Yeah, I don't have any comment on that. All right, let's read a couple of super chats that have come in. The way we do this is I'm going to start reading super chats. I will keep reading super chats until all the super chats have been read. So if you are particularly eager to hear your super chat read right now, this is a great time to leave a super chat. We currently have 4 super chats in the queue. I predict we will immediately get more, but if you want to get in, now's the time to get in. No Scade FPV asks, thank you, by the way, for a $5 super chat. I am switching all my DJI Vista to Goggles 2 and was wondering if I should be changing out my antennas to linear 5.8. Ooh. That's a tough one. So you've got Vista video transmitters with left-hand polarized antennas, and you're going to the Goggles 2, which has linear polarized antennas. Here's what I would suggest you do. Steve Tricks, I agree with your advice. Just leave it alone right now. See, there's this thing I do. Like, I will think about a theoretical problem that might affect me in the future, and I will immediately start problem solving that, and maybe even thinking about spending money to try and buy a solution to the problem. And then if I'm smart and if I'm having a good day, I kick myself and I say, wait, I don't need to solve this problem right now. I can just wait. And that's what my advice to you is. No skate. Just get the Goggles 2, use them with your quads, and see what you think of the range that you're getting. Okay? And maybe like take one quadcopter and swap it out for linear antennas. If you're looking for aftermarket linear antennas, well, I mean, there's a lot of choice there, I guess. You could even... I've heard from a couple of people who are using this style of linear antenna, and you're probably thinking, that's a crappy little cheap $2 antenna. How good could it be? And I've heard of people using this style of antenna on the O3, like on the Beta FPV Pavo Pico. It comes with that style of antenna. And I've heard of people say that actually the coverage is the signal is actually very good. That this style of antenna works really well with the Goggles too. So maybe that's worth a test. Just get one or two of these and see how they work. But you don't need to rush to solve this problem. Just you test it out and you see how it goes. That's what I would say. QQ Red, QQ White, thank you for 29 rupees. I don't see a question from you, so I'm just going to thank you for the donation. Vikas, thank you for 100 rupees. I have 3 CNHL black 1300 milliamp hour batteries. Voltage goes down rapidly, and as soon as I land, it goes up. What's the reason? Well, it does sound like you're describing voltage sag, but I'd be interested to know how much voltage sag you're going to get and what voltage you're stopping the flight at. So it's normal that voltage drops as soon as you start pulling current from the battery. But if it's dropping from like 4.1 to like 3.7, that's excessive. If it's dropping from like 4.1 to 3.9, that's no big deal. And also, you say you're getting 2 minutes flight time, but what voltage are you stopping at 3.7? Are you stopping at 3.5? So those are things I would need to know. Cali FPV asks, what would cause motors to be really hot on stock Betaflight PIDs? Thank you for a $5 super chat. Before I changed the flight controller, it was tuned to the moon and the motors were warm, no crashes. So you changed the flight controller, nothing else has changed, default PIDs, and then suddenly you've got really hot motors. Like, if the only thing you changed was the flight controller, then it makes me think there's a bad gyro on that flight controller. Or something about the mounting of the flight controller is causing gyro noise. We know that a bad gyro can cause hot motors. There's a feedback loop in the quadcopter. You've got the gyro, which picks up movement of the quadcopter. The flight controller tries to change the speed of the motors to try to move the quadcopter in response to the motion of the gyro. So when you get a really noisy gyro, you'll get a noisy signal output to the motors. And the problem is that if the motors can't change speed as fast as they're being commanded to change speed, you get heat buildup. And so a bad gyro can cause heat buildup. Ah, Fabio's here! I said it would be crazy if he was on the plane watching the live stream. He is. Where are you, Fabio? Are you over the ocean? I'm so excited. All right, Fabio, I meant to tell you I can't do it this week. Can we reschedule? Oh. He says we passed Portland already. Portland? Portland? I'm so confused.
Portland, Maine? Is there another Portland?
Oh, Portland. Is there a Portland in Maine? That would make sense. Like, we're coming from Switzerland. There we go. By the way, if you were paying attention, yes, for just a second, I did home in on Sweden. And my brain hadn't registered that Sweden is not Switzerland because I was just like, where is Europe? Switzerland. It must be Portland, Maine. Yes, that makes sense. Oh my God. So he's got like, yeah, wow. They're almost here. Anyway, very exciting. Yeah, they didn't take, yeah. Great circle routes are so crazy, aren't they? Like, if on a flat map, it looks like you flew way up north and then way down south. But if you actually look at the globe head on, aha! Nope, it's pretty much a straight line. Very cool. Excuse me. Well, glad you got your internet back, Fabio. I was just going to show you guys real quick. There we go. There they are, getting on the plane, getting ready to come over here. It's very exciting. And you know, as long as I'm sharing pictures, here is the Italian in his natural habitat. Actually, didn't Fabio tell me he doesn't like... Was it olives he doesn't like? No, he doesn't like pesto. Anyway. Okay, all right. Black Jungle, thank you for 2 Brazilian reais. Open the floodgates. I deny this meme, Black Jungle. I deny this meme. It just had a little bit of a brain fart. I am well aware of the difference between them. Now, you asked me to tell you the difference between Sweden, Norway, and like Iceland and Finland. That's like Iceland, they have the fermented fish and the really good rally drivers. Norway, I met a person in a hotel bar once and spent the evening. She was from Norway, and she spent the evening telling me about Norway. So I know that Norway has really good healthcare and really good parental leave policy. And in the winter, it's dark. In the north of Norway, it's dark for like months at a time, and people get drunk and ride snowmobiles. That was my understanding from a Norwegian. Sweden, David Vindestål is from Sweden. I know that. Denmark, that's where Hamlet was from, pretty sure. Finland had a war with Russia once upon a time, borders Russia. These are things I know about the Are they all Scandinavian countries? I'm not sure that Denmark is Is Denmark Scandinavian? Is Denmark Scandinavian? It is Scandinavian, okay. Oh, there you go. Jacob Wilkening, thank you for $10. OSD not connecting on goggles. No DJI voltage on the bottom. It is a Taker G4 AIO with connector for O3. How to tell what UART that connector is? A Taker G4 with okay. I'm gonna try to solve this problem for you. Lead Flight says Americans are so insular for people who play so much in world affairs. So for the record, American citizens don't play with world affairs. The American government does. We just sit home and reap the benefits of our government's meddling and sometimes consequences. It's because of our government's perpetual meddling in world affairs that we don't actually have to know shit about y'all. Just want to say. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's how it is. And also, I just listed like several facts about Scandinavian countries, including remembering the names of all of them. Greenland? Did I forget? I forgot Greenland. No, wait. Iceland? Norway? Sweden? Denmark? Finland? I did! I got them all! Don't call me insular. Okay, the Faroe Islands I left out, but I'm gonna call that a gimme. Hey, Vikas. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. Definitely not gonna do that. I'm giving you a 1 minute timeout as a penalty. But just a minute, because it's just a warning shot. What the fuck was I doing? The Taker G4 AIO. Black Jungle, I will not be sharing that meme on the stream, but that's funny as shit. What we're looking for is the UART number that the 03 is on. GEPRC usually has very good documentation. There's no cabling diagram. The fuck you say? Pardon my French. Apologies, French people. Check a G4, not G5.
Somebody posted in Discord earlier for you, but this is padded scrolled. If you scroll up on the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. Before Switzerland? Oh, here we go. Thank you so much. Thanks, Plenty. Yeah, but that's an analog VTX. Oh, here we go. Great. Okay. But it doesn't give the UART number. It doesn't give the UART number. That's not helpful. I mean, thank you to the person who posted that. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at GEPRC. The freaking... Lame. Okay. Sorry, you just have to guess. So what I would do is I would look at... No, that's not even true. Because it could duplicate. You just have to guess. I'm sorry. I can't find that information for you. It doesn't seem to be there. It's dumb that it's not there. Okay. 1, 2, 4, 5. Okay, hang on. 1, 2. So 2 is for the receiver. So it's presumably not 2. 1 is for the VTX. So they've got 1 being used for smart audio on the analog VTX. Therefore, I'm going to guess that this is UART 1. They also have the gray. Oh, and the gray and the gold color are the same here. Gray and gold is used for TX1. No, that's RX2. Never mind. Forget that. I think it's UART 1. Because they know that you're going to use either an analog or a digital VTX. So my guess is it's UART 1. Okay. I'm going with UART 1. Okay. Hope that helped. Mehdi Ahmadi, thank you for €6. What would you recommend for indoor flight? Something with the best video footage, also with any proper 4K recording. So the challenge is that anything that's small enough to really have a good time indoors isn't going to carry digital video receiver, video transmitter, and probably isn't going to do 4K recording. But the closest that I can recommend to you is something like this. This is the Flywoo Flylens 8503 Lite. An 85 millimeter is small enough to fly indoors and still have a good time. It's on the edge, though. For indoor flying, you really want a 65 or a 75, but in my opinion, going much smaller than 85 isn't going to be able to carry the weight of the O3 very well. And this one has a naked O3. The O3 is decased, which compromises its durability a little bit, but does save some weight. I feel like this is a good compromise. There is also, I must acknowledge, a Flylens 75, which is even smaller. It's going to be a little more maneuverable indoors, but a little underpowered. And maybe that's a better choice for you. But I think you're really pushing the bounds of what's going to work well. Oh, that's the light version. Does it come in the naked? Oh, it does. You can order the naked version. That's going to save a little bit of weight, but compromise durability. And it will record 4K. So. Big whoop, FPV. Thank you for 10 pounds. 10 quid. Big whoop, FPV wants to know. I flew my first commercial FPV gig recently. Congratulations! I just want to say thanks. I wouldn't be able to get there with you. Thank you. That's exciting. Actually, really feels good to hear people say that. Every single person who gets in the air and credits me in any way, it does good for my heart. It does my heart good. So the idea that somebody out there has been able to start a career and do something that hopefully you enjoy, instead of being sort of a slave to the corporate grind. That's kind of a dream for a lot of people. And if somebody out there was able to fulfill that dream with a little bit of help from me, that's really gratifying. So thank you for telling me. Yeah. Isaac Rempel. Isaac says, I built a SpeedyBee F405 V4 with the Eachine TO805, and I'm getting 11 RSSI and negative a 30 RSSI dBm with 0 LQ. What am I doing wrong? Your receiver doesn't support those things. What is the Eachine TO805S? That's a video transmitter. Yeah, you haven't told me what receiver you're using. So there's a really fundamental confusion here. The RSSI dBm, and the LQ relate to your control link. That's your hand controller and the receiver on the aircraft. The Eachine TOS 805S or whatever is a video transmitter that relates to your goggles, and that has nothing to do with those three stats. So the reason those three stats are not working is because whatever control link you're using doesn't support reporting those stats into telemetry. But that has nothing to do with your video transmitter. So I'm not going to be able to answer whatever, I don't know what receiver you're using, right? Because you didn't tell me. But hopefully the answer to your question will be to help you understand that the RSSI and stuff has nothing to do with your video transmitter or smart audio.
Yeah. Yeah, just to be clear, negative 130 and 0 means you're not getting anything from it. So you're using some S-bus that doesn't transfer it?
He says he's using ELRS. ELRS receiver from Radiomaster Ranger Micro. Okay, so ELRS should report those things. You need to make sure that RSSI ADC is off. I don't know why it would be on.
Do you have movement in the receiver tab?
Yeah, good question, Blunty. Is the receiver even working? I guess I assumed it was. Yeah, maybe the receiver's not even working. So, hang on.
You know what happens when you make assumptions? You spend an hour and a half troubleshooting something.
You get to bill more hours?
Sometimes.
Billable hours, right? It's very important. So in the receiver tab, you should have movement here and colored bars. Okay? When you move your controller sticks, you should see movement here. That will confirm that your receiver is working. Then you need to have this option off. Now it is off by default, so unless you turned it on, it shouldn't be on. But if you did turn it on, it will make all that stuff not work. Isaac says, I got to fly it, but I lost video at about 100 feet. Yeah, that's a separate issue. That has nothing to do with the LQ, etc. That's your video is a separate issue. I'm going to guess you're just at 25 milliwatts. 100 feet sounds about right for 25 milliwatts. I'm going to guess that you, maybe what you need to do is go into the video transmitter tab. Hang on. Go into the video transmitter tab and check and see that you have device ready yes or true over here, and then you should be able to change the power here. Oh, we don't have a VTX table loaded, but yeah, I'm going to guess you're just at 25 milliwatts. Luro FPV asks, I've updated my Mobula 8 to Betaflight 4.5, but the OSD is gone. I have an HD0 Whoop Light VTX. I have selected MSP on DisplayPort and applied the HD0 preset. What could be wrong? Thank you for 10 euros. Luro, I agree that applying the HD0 preset was the right thing to do. There are a couple of additional steps in the CLI that need to be done. And when you just set up the ports tab, those steps often get overlooked. So kudos on that. If you applied the HD, I assume it was working on Betaflight 4.4 also. So the only thing I can guess is that you selected the wrong UART when you applied the preset. Also, when you apply the preset, you have to press the pick button, but then afterwards you have to press the save button also. So maybe those are a couple things that could have been done wrong. Isaac Rempel says RSSI ADC was on. Yay! So your RSSI will work, but that still doesn't tell us why your video isn't working. Okay. Cali FPV, which gyro has an issue and has a preset to use? Cali, I think you're thinking about the BMI 270 gyro. The issue is that the built-in low-pass filter on the BMI 270 is different than what's on the other ICM gyros, and Betaflight's default filtering was not optimized for use with that low pass. Basically, because the BMI 270's low pass filter is a lower cutoff frequency, Betaflight's filtering should actually be relaxed to a higher cutoff frequency, and it's over filtered. However, the need to load a preset is long gone. The Betaflight devs now, they almost immediately changed Betaflight to detect the presence of the BMI 270 gyro and to change the default filter settings. So you do not need to load any preset. Let's see here. Mars asks, does Quicksilver have acro mode? Yes, right? I don't fly Quicksilver a lot, but Quicksilver has acro mode, right? Of course it does. John Rahuge, thank you for a $10 super chat. When you did the test of the Phoenix UAS RID module, did you attempt any GPS rescue? I have a hard time getting good results over MSP versus U-blocks. It's like the rescue setting is ignored. John, I have been trying to run down this issue, and I don't have a good answer for you. But what I can tell you is that other people have had issues where sometimes it works fine and then sometimes it doesn't when you're doing Betaflight GPS Rescue over MSP. When I made the video about this, so I didn't flight test that module at all, just in the interest of time. When I did the video about this, I reported what I was told, which is that Phoenix said they had tested it and that it was working. After I released that video, I started to get not very many, but a couple comments from people who tested GPS Rescue and said that it still was not working reliably. And I went back and I said, Phoenix, can you give me some video of this working? Can you show me your tests and confirm that it's all working? And I also reached out to FPV Freedom Coalition, whose GPS also uses MSP. And the story that I got, flight test. Yes, flight test. I'm sorry, not FPV Freedom Coalition. The flight test Easy ID. And the story that I got was that it worked some of the time, but then, actually we had some issues and it didn't work all of the time. So all I can say is that you're not alone there, but I don't have specific information on what steps need to be taken to make it work reliably. That's all I can say about that. Oh, sorry about that. Let me actually look. I'm not going to show you the email chain, but I want to look. It's in my other inbox. The reason I said, the reason I said FPV Freedom Coalition is I also talked to Dave Messina about it, so I had him in my head. But Dave is also what is his position at Flight Test? Is he the president?
CEO.
CEO.
But I don't know. It might be president. Okay. I'm not sure.
So let's see. So you should make sure that your MRID is on the latest firmware, and you should be sure that you're on the release version of Betaflight 4.5, because even in some of the release candidate issue, there were issues. The Phoenix guys are saying that as long as your MRID module is on the latest firmware and you're on the latest version of Betaflight, that it should be reliable. But there were known issues in older firmwares. So that's what I would tell you about that. Let's see here. Oh, that's it. We're caught up. We're caught up on Super Chats. Yay. Great. Let's go back to the regular chats. Lost left this very early in the stream. Lost, I want to just acknowledge your question and tell you the SP Racing F3 is super old, and Clean Flight is also not very widely used. I think you're going to struggle to get help with that. I'm not going to be able to help you because I haven't used an F3 board in years, and I haven't used Clean Flight in years and years. So I acknowledge your question, and I want you to know I'm not ignoring you, but also I can't help you, and I don't know who will be able to help you.
Just
I hope you get the help you need.
F3 builds for Betaflight for 4.1 and flash that. There's no reason to use Clean Flight.
Oh, is that if I go to firmware flasher development? Choose a firmware. Oh no, I have to pick a board first. The SP Racing F3 isn't here. Is that available?
I put a post in the Discord.
Oh, UAV Techs. Okay. So it's worth a try. Go to this URL, the uavtech.com/performance-edition, I'll put that in the chat. Try flashing one of those using Betaflight Configurator. Will Betaflight Configurator be unhappy with Betaflight 411 being super old?
I don't think so. I think past like 10.7 or 10.8, they started doing it where it automatically knows. I think around the same time they had the virtual flight controller come in and you could pick the MSP version. I believe a lot of that is taken care of. It may not work properly on 3.5 something, but I know that used to be an issue way more on older versions of the config.
Yeah, okay. John says that his quad overshoots and dives towards the ground when doing GPS rescue with MSP. To my mind, that means that the GPS information is not coming in frequently enough, but I could be wrong about that. John, are you absolutely on the latest version of the MRID firmware? Can you try flashing it just to be sure? The Phoenix
there were like
guys...
4 problems with MSP. So like I'll just say like the flight test guys and the Phoenix guys said that it was working and it wasn't, and then said it was working and it wasn't, and then said it was working. So like
well, that's where I'm at too. That's where I'm at too. Like on the one hand, they swear it's working and they swear they've tested it and it's working, but then I keep hearing that it's not working. And then, as you said, Blenty, a couple times they said it was working, and then they came back and they were like, "Oh well, we found a bug, and now we fixed the bug and now it's working." So it's a little hard to know whether, John, you've just found another bug and it's actually not working.
Yeah, the last thing I heard was that Betaflight requires 10 hertz from the GPS, and that one of the modules is only 5 hertz, but I don't remember which one. And then they were trying to put out a patch to fix that, or something like that.
John says he is getting close to 10 hertz updates in Black Box. How close, John?
I think it requires completely 10 hertz. Like I think it has to be above, 10 hertz or above, but that's a question for Betaflight.
Maybe that's your answer, John. All right. Joseph Pekka asks, what do you think about 3D printed drone frames? I'm curious. I'm just curious. I am going to answer your question. If I go to the Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips channel, have I talked about this? Yes. I designed a 5-inch 3D printed frame. Why isn't this popular and the best thing? If you want to hear an 8-minute rant about why 3D printed drone frames are a terrible idea, you can. Here it is. Check it out on the Livestream Clips channel. I will avoid going on a 8-minute rant, though. The short version is that 3D printed materials do not have the right combination of strength, stiffness, durability to work well on FPV drone frames. Above, say, maybe 75 millimeters, maybe 85 millimeters. You could do okay with very, very small frames, 3D printed. It's still maybe not ideal. On larger frames, though, it just doesn't work well. Carbon fiber sheet is a fantastic material. There's a reason that we use it. It's not that we don't know that 3D printing exists and haven't tried it. Now, I will say one thing you did right that other people don't is you at least played to the strengths of 3D printing by using generative design. So other people will just make plastic sheets and they'll replicate a carbon fiber frame with 3D printed plastic. So you've taken all of the disadvantages of carbon fiber and combined them with all of the disadvantages of 3D printing to make something that is worse than the sum of its parts. But if you did it with generative design, at least you've got some kind of novel structure that's going to play to the strengths of the additive manufacturing. The problem is that now you've got a frame that is largely not maintainable. Now, I haven't seen your specific frame, but generally when you have an additive design frame, it basically is one piece. It doesn't really come apart. It's not really easy to maintain or repair, and it's probably not going to be durable enough to not explode in a crash. Excuse me. Okay. Nasty FPV says, my 7.5-inch rig throttles up when yawing and making tight turns. Any input? Funny you say that. I actually have a video. Does it do something like this? Wait for it. Does it do something like...
This is my iFlight Chimera 7 Pro. And a little while back, I took Betaflight off of it. And that is the Betaflight pin. No idea. We're going to go up to 100. Batteries is good. You'll notice we haven't messed with... I feel like they're like we ought. There's only going to see it what there. That's crazy. Did you see how roll P gain? How about that? Let's try that. There's no D on yaw. We're going to see what that does. And save. Okay, I don't see any problems. What about a sharp yaw move? We'll see if there's any bounce back.
Like this?
Oh, no bounce back. Plenty of flyaway, though. Jeez. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you hear the motors going, right? As I center the stick, the motors go, and the quad kind of wants to fly away just a little bit. Yeah. Bad news. So first of all, I was using iNav there, and it's possible that if you're using Betaflight, maybe you'll be able to get better results. I don't remember that happening when I flew this same quadcopter on the Betaflight tune, but you know, I may not have done that exact test. Bad news, I couldn't fix it. No matter what I did, I couldn't solve it. So, you're not alone, and I can't help you. The problem, I think, is that, well, you'd need black box, and I specifically didn't use black box for that PID tune because I just wanted to rough it in. So, so I just want you to know I also can't solve that problem. If you figure it out, let me know.
Y'all will always thrust up a little bit, though, right? Or is it...
Well...
Like, I think there's always a problem there, right? Because you have, like... You're like, on a teeter-totter between not going up and getting enough responsiveness in the yaw, right?
Yep.
Like, or it seems like that's the case.
But the flip side is that... The problem is not that... So, as you yaw, yes, a lot of times you'll see the quadcopter will pop up a little bit, because the down spinning motors can't spin down fast enough. So you'll gain altitude. But what we're seeing is that the quad goes after you center the stick. And to me, that feels like a different problem.
So that's like a wind-up or something, you would think.
Some kind of wind-up, yeah. Yeah. And like I tested this. I'm not sure all of this was in the video because I spent like, there was probably like 8 or 7 minutes in the video. I don't know. It was a substantial portion of the video where I tried to solve this problem, and then in the end I failed. And I thought people might not just want to watch me try and fail for 8 minutes. And I think I might have cut a lot of it out of the video. But I tried setting iTerm to like a really low number on yaw, in case it was iTerm windup. It doesn't really seem like iTerm windup. The timing is right for iTerm windup, but it's not really bouncing back. It's really just kind of accelerating. So it didn't fix it. I tried adding a ton of feed forward. I tried doubling the yaw P gain, and none of that stuff really changed it. And my takeaway is that we're like at the limit of authority for the motors, that the motors simply cannot accelerate any faster. And so that all the PID tuning changes, they're not going to work if the motors are just at the limit of their sort of physical capabilities. One thing that I thought I could try that I didn't try would be to go to a lower PWM frequency on the ESC, because a lower PWM frequency would increase the torque and increase the braking strength. I don't know if that, I didn't try that, and I don't know if it would have worked, but I couldn't solve it though. So if anybody knows how to solve that using iNav on a 7-inch, I'd love to hear more about that.
Somebody's asking,
yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
Max Melder in the chat asked, what is absolute control in Betaflight? I've never noticed it before, bottom right corner of the PIDs tab. I only brought it up because when I read it, it was like, oh, this kind of sounds like what we're talking about.
Absolute control.
Maybe not, though.
Is this a 4.5 thing?
I believe so. Yeah, it's in the bottom right corner, miscellaneous settings in the PIDs tab. If you hover over the question mark, it says, this feature solves some underlying problems of iTerm rotation.
No. Good thinking. It sounds like it, okay. But hang on, let me zoom in here. No, I know. I know what that is now that, here, I got to move this up here. That's the one that if you're a line of sight pilot who does like a lot of funnels, that the yaw axis can get out of whack. That's what I remember about that. But I don't think that relates to this problem.
10-4.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that only really comes into play if you are doing a lot of like really aggressive yaw moves. And FPV pilots typically don't. Well, flippin' hell.
If you do a search on Betaflight website for that, can you get it?
I'm so annoyed. I know this is in the release notes. Where's the search? Search. Oh, why did I Control F not find it? Fuck you. Yeah, it addresses the same attitude issues as iTerm rotation. It continuously measures the error of the quad's path over SIG-input, properly rotated into the quad's coordinate system, and mixes proportional to that error into the set point. Particularly during rotations involving yaw and other... Well, maybe. Better stick tracking. I really... Let's look up iTerm rotation. Line of sight acro pilots when yawing continuously during rolls and performing funnels and other tricks. It rotates the iTerm vector as the quad rotates on other axes. The effect is subtle, but can result in somewhat more predictable responses during abrupt stick inputs and while performing tricks. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's relevant. Anyway, it's not an iNav, so it doesn't matter. I would be really interested in, not interested enough to actually do this, but I'd be really interested to go back to Betaflight 4.4 and go to iNav's standard PID tune that came on this bird, or iFlight rather, not iNav. iFlight's PID tune that came on this bird, and see if it has this problem, because that would clearly delineate whether this is a fundamental limitation of the motors or whether it's the flight control software having a problem. So, but not enough to actually do it. I'm just like, meh, how often do I do sharp yaw moves? Let's get on with my life. Got a couple more super chats that have come in. Arexi Burkane, thank you for £2. What's the best GPS module as for today? So Arexi, that's a loaded question. I'm going to tell you, though, that I recently did some research looking for, like, the best GPS module. And in as much as I was able to find, looking and asking people whose opinion I trusted, this one, the Maytech M10Q 5883, seems to be a very good one. There are others out there. They may be good as well. But I settled on this one, and I have talked. There's a person who's running a drone program who needed like 10 or 15 quadcopters for their students, and they asked me, what GPS should the students get, and I recommended this one, and they used it and had good results. So the thing to keep in mind, though, is that no GPS will give good results if, like, the GPS is right up against the 5.8 gigahertz antenna, etc., etc. Like, you have to set yourself up for success. And, like, if you... I'm going to suggest that you check out this video. I fixed my iNav compass, and so can you, because the guidance in here for getting your compass working right will also help your GPS to work right. I do want to say on this exact quadcopter, to the compass that would... one of the things I did, I don't know if you can see, it's a little hard to see here. I put some aluminum foil duct tape. So it's metal tape, but it's metal foil with a sticky back. I put some around the wires of the GPS, and that alone doubled the number of satellites I locked. So I have been skeptical about how effective that is in the past. I got to tell you, on this bird, it made a huge difference, and I recommend it. Colin Stapleton, thank you for a £5 super chat. The Caddx ant on my Crux 3.5 hates filming grass. It almost pulses neon green in the DVR. What cam setting will improve this, or should I get a better camera? Does it only pulse green in the DVR or also in the goggles? Maybe you have a DVR issue. You might be able to turn the saturation down. Like, that would be the first place I would go. If the camera has a saturation setting, try turning it down. Doug McLeod asks, is Orca dead? Thank you for a $5 super chat, Doug. Orca is not dead.
Orca HD.
Oh, Orca HD. Well, I'll keep going, but thank you, Blunty. So Orca as a company is not dead. If we look at their website, enterprise.orcafpv.com, we can see that they are advertising. NDAA basically means no China. They're advertising NDAA components for FPV quadcopters. There's a flight controller, there's an ESC, and there's these goggles. So the only people who are interested in NDAA stuff is governments and militaries who want to avoid China. Generally, hobbyists and recreational users don't give a shit about that. Even commercial users usually don't give a shit. It's the government people. So Orca has always said that their goal was to pivot without abandoning the FPV market entirely, but to pivot to this kind of stuff after sort of using the FPV market as a sort of a skunkworks to develop their stuff. Well, they still sell to the FPV market, but it does seem like the pace of development has slowed. And I would speculate that they've shifted their focus more towards NDAA stuff and government military stuff. So I wouldn't say they're dead. As far as Orca HD goes, that is their HD video system. We haven't really heard a damn thing about it since whatever year CES. What year was that? I did a live at CES 2019. Bachgrinder visited them at CES 2020, I think. Oh, here we go. 2 years ago. Orca will be showing 3... Blunty, we did it at the news. Isn't it great? Where is it? So that was in 2 years ago. So that would have been 2022-ish. Roughly 2022. They showed these systems at Orca at CES, and nothing has come of it. So is it dead? I don't know, but it certainly doesn't seem like they're developing it very actively for consumers. And the other thing, and I said this way back when we covered this, Blunty, the video transmitters they showed at CES, one of them was a 250 milliwatt 5.8 gigahertz video transmitter. And I was like, oh, that could be for hobbyists. At the time, I thought 250 milliwatts was very low, but we have since learned that the Caddx Vista Chris Rosser showed us this. The Caddx Vista at 700 milliwatts, that's taking into account the antenna gain, which is not the usual way of talking about video transmitter power. So actually, apples to apples, the Vista is also like 250 milliwatts or thereabouts, if I'm remembering Chris Rosser's research correctly. So, but then they had a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5G video transmitter that were clearly not for hobbyists. And I was like, oh, they're not developing this system for hobbyists. And they haven't released it. And who knows if they ever will. I think even recently on Facebook, the Orca CEO made some comment about the video system and basically said it's not for you. But I'm not able to remember the specifics on that. Black Jungle wants, thank you for another 5 reais. Black Jungle, ever messed with headless mode or altitude hold? How do you feel about those? Black Jungle, for those who don't know, headless mode means that the quadcopter keeps facing the same direction. No, my bad. Headless mode means that when you push the pitch stick forward, the quadcopter moves away from you, regardless of which way it's rotated. And when you push the pitch stick back, the quadcopter moves towards you, regardless of which way it's rotated. This is advantageous for line of sight flying, where you don't want to worry about the yaw axis. I can rotate the quadcopter on the yaw axis to face any direction I want, and when I want it to come back to me, I just pull back on the pitch stick. When I want it to go left, I push left, and when I want it to go right, I push right, and the yaw orientation doesn't matter. As you can imagine, this would not work for FPV, because in FPV, the camera orientation is always the reference point, okay? So I've used head-free mode way back when I very first learned to fly and was practicing line of sight, but I've never gone back to it because I don't fly line of sight. As far as altitude hold goes, I mean, to be honest with you, I can handle a throttle okay. And if your quadcopter doesn't have like a rangefinder or a sonar or some other thing to give you good altitude control, I think altitude hold isn't that useful. I've used altitude hold on an iNav and a Pixhawk bird that had a barometer and GPS only, and it was like pretty good, but not good enough that I really felt I could trust it to not sort of crash into the ground. So that's what I would say about that. Sunshine, thank you for a $10 super chat. I'm curious if braces on a 5-inch race frame could cause poor flight performance. I would expect that braces would improve flight performance, but I wouldn't be surprised to learn that they might cause some problem. I would try removing them. I mean, that's what you're wondering, right? That's how to find out. You remove them and see. Is it a part of the frame or is it removable? It looks like it's removable from your picture. I can't quite tell, though. It's removable, yeah. So just take the braces off. I mean, that's the surefire way to tell. The Sunshine says they're removable, but it's a pain to remove them. Yes, but you just spent 3 hours PID tuning trying to fix this problem. So spend 15 minutes removing them. That would be my advice. I know the feeling, though. McShaky wants to know, if I put 7.5 or 9-inch props on my 10-inch, will it work okay? 9-inch props, yeah, you'll get a little less thrust, but you probably won't notice any difference. 7.5-inch props, I think the reduction in thrust will be enough that you might not like how it flies. But, like, I've literally seen someone test hover a 7-inch on 5-inch props. It hovered. So, like, it'll probably fly on 7.5-inch. But I don't know if it'll be great. Mr. Breezy wants to know, should I wait for the 04 to come out or just buy the 03? I would just buy... I don't think... We don't know how long it'll be till the 04 comes out. Life's too short, and you're going to buy more quadcopter parts anyway. So buy the 03 today, and then if the 04 doesn't come out for 6 months, you'll feel like you did the right thing. And if the 04 comes out next week, you buy the 04. Then you'll have 2. And I know what you're thinking. Bardwell, that's a lot of money. But here's the thing. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. You know you're going to do it. If you buy the 03 today, you're going to buy the 04 maybe in 6 months, maybe in 2 months, maybe in 3 months, maybe next week. You're going to do it. So that's the beautiful thing about FPV. You will always be spending more money in the future, so you kind of don't need to worry. Like, if it was goggles, where you buy one set of goggles and you keep them for 3-4 years, you don't want to make the wrong decision. But video transmitters, you're going to go through a lot of video transmitters. So just do it. That's what I would say. Excuse me. Light sale. I do have the new HC0 monitor. I have a review of it recorded, just not released yet. The monitor does receive a 90 hertz signal and display it, but it displays it in 60 FPS, and it does it by just dropping frames. Okay? So whatever, you would drop 1 out of every 3 frames, I guess. It is not recommended by HD0 to fly off it. It's only for spectating. Here's the thing I don't get, and maybe you guys can comment on this. The HD0 monitor... Hold on, I'll get it. Hold on, sit tight. It's a handheld monitor. I will spoil my review a little bit as your reward for watching my live stream. Does anybody actually fly off of these? Like, I'm sure somebody does, but like, is this really going to be your primary FPV monitor? Not that, like, the receiver is fine, but like, what are you going to be, like, holding your radio looking down at this thing while the sun shines down? Little 5-inch screen? What am I going to do? Well, I would do that, but only because my eyes are terrible. So in my opinion, the only reason something like this is, there's 2 reasons something like this is useful. One is if you do like Emacs did with the Transporter HD and you build it into a box goggle. Absolutely. And the other is if you want it for use on the bench or for spectating. Now, if you're using this on the bench or for spectating, the fact that it's got some frame skipping when it displays a 90 hertz signal doesn't really matter. Right? Right. Okay. So I'm worried. I'm a little worried. I mean, I'm not going to change my opinion based on the potential for backlash. But like, I finished the video and I said at the end of the review, this thing costs $175, maybe $200 if you have to buy antennas for it. It's in the range of about $175 to $225, depending on what accessories you already own and what you have to buy. And it's basically a spectator or bench monitor. And if you want a $200 spectator or bench monitor, get it. But it's not an FPV monitor. You're not going to fly off it. And then I thought, is that just me sort of being out of touch? Or are other people going to agree with that? It sounds like some of the chat is agreeing with me. I'm looking for people who are like, no, Bardwell, you're super out of touch. Yeah, okay. Basically, people are agreeing with me. So, like, how bad is the frame skipping when you use it with a 90 FPS camera? I don't know. It doesn't matter. You're not flying off it. It's just for spectating. It's fine. Now, if somebody comes up with a 3D printed box goggle, that's going to be hot. Yep. As an analog to HDMI converter, very useful. 100%. Yeah, okay. All right, good. I'm glad to hear that I was right. Always good to hear that I was right. My 5-inch has been flying great for months. After a few crashes, it goes nuts. When I arm it, it tries to fly away. What should I do? My gut feeling is that this is a flight controller. Just without any more information, if you were like, just tell me the first thing to do. My gut feeling is you finally killed the gyro. Check that the capacitor didn't break off. But it shouldn't fly away even without a capacitor. But check the capacitor. Adam Co, the output from the monitor is always 60 hertz. Period. So you can't plug it into a 144 hertz monitor and get 90 FPS. How can I increase the range of my Walksnail V1 setup? I'm using the VRX module with HD0 goggles. Would getting rid of the stock antennas be a good first step? Yeah, absolutely. Upgrading the antennas is a great way to get better range. And getting some patch antennas. Absolutely. Luke Stearman, thank you for a $5 super chat. I'm looking to build a 2.5 to 3 inch freestyle drone with the Walksnail 1S. I've seen 2S and 4S builds that look fun. What would you lean towards and why? Luke, if you're building a 3 inch, I would advise you to try to fit the full-size Walksnail VTX in there if you can. A 3 inch, I think, should be. I mean, I've seen a 3 inch carry a Caddx Vista and fly great. So I feel like your 3 inch or maybe your 2.5 inch could get the full size Walksnail VTX in there. I got to tell you, the Walksnail 1S, I feel like it gives up some durability compared to the full size one. And I would try not to use it unless I absolutely had to. So that's what would be my advice. As far as build recommendations, if you go to my website, I have a page, sub 250 gram drones and parts. Sub 250 gram. And there's recommended parts here, as well as bind and flies. So if you're looking for build recommendation, that's where I would send you. I think for 3 inch, you don't want to go above 4S. I think 3S to 4S is a good place to be. Giannis Diakonis, thank you for a €5 super chat. How come Maytech stopped producing the F722 or similar flight controllers? I don't know the answer to that. But thank you for the donation. That's a Maytech business decision. I just don't know the answer. Elias asks, should I update the antennas on the VTX or the goggle? The goggle first, because if you get upgraded antennas on the goggle, then it improves all the quads you fly with. But if you have upgraded antennas on the quad, it only fixes that one quad. Regoria FPV asks, I updated my iFlight Evoke to Betaflight 4.5 from 4.2.9. Is the factory tune filter setting okay to put in the new 4.5? No, not from 4.2.9. Like, I'm hearing that 4.4 tunes can be copied over to 4.5, but 4.2, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You just use the defaults if you want.
Yeah, also, just so you know, I think a lot of those iFlight quads have 4.4 tunes. So, like in the presets in Betaflight. So if you put the iFlight preset thing into Betaflight and then you go into Betaflight and check your presets, I'm pretty sure most of these quads have presets for 4.4, and they're working on 4.5s. They posted a couple times on Facebook about that.
Oh, okay. So if they have a 4.4 tune, then you could copy that into 4.5. I don't know if I would copy the CLI dump, though. Like, I just always worry that...
I recommending people stay on 4.4 and then wait for them to push 4.5.
iFlight's very conservative about that kind of thing, though. So they're not necessarily wrong. But what I would do is I would flash it to 4.4. I would load iFlight's 4.4 CLI dump. I would look at the PID tuning tab and the filters, and then I would flash to 4.5, and I would manually put that stuff in. Excuse me. Made a big mistake coming down here without a glass of water. But it's 2:30, and we're just going to power through.
Apparently, also, Chris Rosser has a video about what you can and can't move over between 4.4 and 4.5, so maybe that might be helpful.
Oh, very helpful. Mr. Breezy, thank you for 10 euros. Scott FPV says thank you for $5 just as a thank you. Let me look and see if Mr. Breezy has a question. Yeah, here we go. I followed your beginner playlist with simulator training, etc. Now I've bought the Radiomaster Pocket. Oh, no, I got that one. I got that question, Mr. Breezy. Thank you for $10. Black Jungle. Use case for the HC0 monitor. People that fly with a chest-mounted screen. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. What kind of person flies with a chest-mounted screen? I guess it could flip down. You could have it here. You could flip it down. I don't know. Finally, a use for the Mr. Steel chesty. Clever. Kenny Kobe wants to know, is there any way to fix the enamel on a motor stator? No. If the enamel hasn't been burned through and the motor still works, you may still be able to use it, but you cannot fix it. The only way to fix it is to rewind the motor with new wire. Do I really need to have 3 channels to use the DJI goggles? Blunty, what do you think they're asking?
I think they mean, do they need to use the ham hack or FCC hack so they can see 3 channels instead of 1 to be able to use them, or can they just fly on the single channel?
No, you can just fly on the single channel, but I mean, why wouldn't you do the ham hack?
That would be my guess, because that's 3 channels versus 1, right?
Makes sense. Well, at 40 megahertz. Yeah. Makes sense. Good, we got that one knocked out. Lorenzu asks, I don't know if my ESC or my flight controller went bad because on my 5-inch freestyle drone, the motors one day just started smelling burnt when I took off. What do you think? Is it a Betaflight setting? I wouldn't assume it was a Betaflight setting. But if the motors are smelling burnt, then I'm going to guess they're coming down super hot. And you need to figure out what's happening because they are going to burn out and be destroyed. Don't fly the drone if the motors are getting super hot. Try to figure out what's causing them to get super hot. What kind of things cause motors to get super hot? It was working. Now it's not. It makes me wonder, like, I could make up some scenarios, but I'm not sure how helpful they're going to be. Like, if you crashed and cracked your frame and your frame was starting to delaminate, that could cause gyro noise that then makes the motors be super hot, especially if you were running a really aggressive PID tune. I don't know. Let's see here. Elena Serej. Thank you for 50 Czech Koruna. And I'm sorry that I don't have a Czech accent to attempt to pronounce your name correctly. But thank you for 50 Czech Koruna. I don't even know what a Czech accent sounds like. Hello, I bought a drone with DJI 03 for long-range flying. Is it worth waiting for a compatibility update with G3, or should I just buy the G2? I don't think it's worth... we don't know how long it's going to be until that happens. So the question is, how long are you willing to wait? Okay? Like, I would take the under on 1 year until we have... Like, let's Blunty, let's think about it if we were betting. And Blunty, I assume you know, like, if I say I'll take the under on 1 year, that means we're going to bet. And if it's less than a year, I win the bet. And if it's a year or over, you win the bet. Okay? So the question is, what would I take the under on? Let's say we're going to bet $100. What do you think? What would you take the under on?
I mean, is this a world where I can pick the under, or is the odds change based on the length of?
No. We're just here's the deal. Here's the deal I'm going to offer you.
So I'm definitely right. I mean, you know what I mean.
But I have to take the over. That's the thing. If I say let's say we say 1 year, okay? I take the under on a year. So would you? Okay, no bet. All right, but if somebody was willing to take the over, you would 100% take the under on a year, right?
Yes.
Okay. If somebody was willing to take the over, would you take the under on 6 months? I'd take the under on 6 months.
I don't know. This is tough for me because I don't know that it's actually going to happen. I guess in a world where we assume it's going to happen, the under is 6 months. It's just tough for me to like.
I assume it's going to happen. Do you think it might not happen?
DJI is a $1 billion company. They can snap a finger and close a division. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily think it's going to happen.
But so you're on. By the way, for those who aren't tracking, we're talking about Goggles 3 getting compatibility with the 03 air unit. I would take the under on 6 months, but I agree. That's like, if you asked me to take the under on 4 months, I would be hesitant. I'd probably take the under on 4 months, but no less than that.
I think if it's going to happen, it'll definitely be in the next 6 months, but I just like... Similar to the 04 air unit, like I think it is very possible they just don't do any of that. Like the division stops making things and they decide to get out of FPV. You know, like I don't know, but we don't know how well they're doing.
Well, you're gambling, so you're playing the odds sort of inherently. That's what I think gambling is interesting.
But I agree when you have odds to play, but we don't have odds to play because we don't know anything about.
That's the most interesting form of gambling, Blunty. Gambling on things where you know the odds is boring. Because, let's gamble on the outcome of a dice roll. Well, we both know the odds. We both know if we're smart, and can do math, then we know what our expected value should be. And at that point, we just might as well flip a coin and gamble on the outcome of that. But gambling on things where no one knows what the outcome is going to be, now I feel alive. No, you don't agree?
I think we have different ideas of fun.
Well, I to be fair, I don't actually gamble at all in real life. I only gamble hypothetically, because in real life,
If the FPV division keeps going, it's definitely going to happen in the next 6 months. I
You
think
take
it's
the under
crazy.
on 6, you take the under on 4, you take the under on 2?
No.
No, you take the over on 2.
No. Well, I don't know. I kind of just wouldn't bet because I wouldn't want that.
Nope, not an option. Not an option. You take the. Would you take the under or the over on 2 months?
What kind of messed up gambling game is this where I have to
look? I would take the over on 2 months and the under on 4. If I was to put my own money on the line, that's my guess. Now it doesn't. By the way, that doesn't mean I'm right. I could easily just be way off base and lose money.
Yeah, I think a lot of the question here is how important do you think it was, how big the Avata sold to getting an O3 air unit and backwards compatibility for Vista? And
you think it depends on the Avata 2 sales? If Avata 2 sales are bad, then you think it'll take longer. That's interesting.
I do, because they need to sell through stock before they start supporting older things.
That's interesting.
That's what a lot of people think happens, and I think that is logical for a company that works on numbers and doesn't work on having fun and making fun, happy customers. It makes, the goal is to sell product and have sell through, I'm sure, and to make sure you're not like holding back stock product and
So I'll say if I were to be betting, which I'm not, I would say more than 2 months, definitely less than a year. Like 99% confident less than a year, 97% confident less than 6 months, and I think in the 2 to 4 month range would be my guess. But if I had to really nail it down, I'd say 2 to 6 months. But that's pure speculation.
And the reminder is for the Avata, that was 3 months. They released the O3 and did backwards compatibility 2 weeks later.
Yep. Okay. But here's going back to the original question. Is it worth waiting? I don't know. Because when people say, should I wait for this new product? What I'm imagining is every day you wake up and you think, is it today? And you go and you Google. I know what it's like waiting for a product to come out that you're really excited about. And every freaking day you're reading, product name release Reddit. And then one day there's a hit and it's an early review or it's an unboxing from somebody who has a pre-release sample. It's not out yet. And you spend the next 4 months in that state of perpetual, and that's miserable. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. So ask yourself how long you're willing to wait. But know that the actual amount of time, no one knows. I think realistically it's going to be 2 or 3 months, if I had to guess. And I wouldn't want to wait 2 or 3 months. I would just get my ass in the air. Buy the goggles too. Because frankly, here's the other thing. The O4 is not that much better than the O3. So if you buy the goggles too and the O3 today, what are you missing out on? The O4 comes out and somehow the O4 doesn't get backwards compatibility to the G2. Oh no, you don't get to use the O4. Who cares? All right, I think we spent long enough on this question, but
yeah, I always say this, but I'm still flying V1s with Vistas, and it's it's amazing, and I'm very happy with it. So
yeah. Clive Hunt asks, I'm building a new quad with dead cat motor layout. Should I use a custom motor mix? A dead cat where the motor layout is like a trapezoid. Is that the right word for that thing? Trapezoid, I think. It's not a rectangle. Trapezoid. It is a trapezoid, yeah. Yay, geometry class. It might make sense to use a custom motor mix. However, realistically, you can probably accomplish what you need to accomplish just by PID tuning. And the custom motor mix is kind of a pain in the ass to figure out. But it might make sense. Blunty, looking at this conversation between you and Black Jungle says, wait, there's an O4 already? And you say, no, it's just speculation. Well, I mean, Blunty, technically, doesn't the Avata 2 have an EO4 in it? It's just not available for purchase separately.
I mean, I don't agree. No. I mean, maybe, but we don't know what the O4 will be, right? I mean, that's super semantic, right? We could have said the 04 existed before the Avata 2 because it was in the Mini 3 or what,
I would
the
say
Air
that.
3.
I
But I
would say
wouldn't at
that.
all because we figured out that OcuSync doesn't have just 4 generations. OcuSync 3 is different than OcuSync 3 Plus. OcuSync 2 is different than OcuSync 2 Plus. There were different chips inside of those that didn't work compatible with each other. There were
Interesting.
certain things in OcuSync 3 that didn't bind to other things in OcuSync 3. I mean, they specifically had to make, right, like compatibility patches to make further and front and back hardware work. So I don't think we can equivocate
There's no
low latency
no
FPV with mid latency FPV with high latency DJI video cameras and say they're all 04 in the same way, right?
What you're saying is that there's no assumption that when the standalone 04 is released, it will just be we pulled the video transmitter and camera out of an Avata 2 and made it standalone. Well, I mean,
It's
that
possible.
wasn't. It could, but we don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Was that the case for the 03? Was it just basically yanked out of the FPV drone?
I believe it's pretty much, yeah. I think it
Pretty
was like
much.
recased.
Yeah.
I think it's a similar board, but obviously the board was cut off and not part of the same piece and all that stuff. But I think my main point here is that we have 04 for camera drones, we have 04 for Avata, and we have 04 for DIY, and this might not all be the same thing. So
Fair. Yeah. However, whatever the next generation is from the 03 is in the wild in the form of the Mini 3, the Avata 2, and the whatever the third one is. Mini 3 Pro. Right? You agree?
maybe like Air 3. I don't know. I don't follow camera drone.
Yeah, me neither. Hello, chat. Do you think that DJI goggles V1 and Vista is worth it for a cheap digital FPV build? That's interesting. Blunty, I swear I just heard you saying something about this. You want to take this one?
Yeah, I queued this specifically just to make sure that we said that, like, if that's all you can afford, I don't think that's crazy, especially because you're going to get them really cheap. However, I will say that I bet goggles V2 are about the same price. So, like, I think you should compare to what you can get. But if V1s are very cheap, like if you're getting them way cheaper than a V2 or a Goggles 2 used, then I think it's worth it for me.
Yeah.
Like you just have to know you're not going to be able to use the newer stuff, but you have all these VTXs that you can still buy that you've been able to buy for years and years. That there are thousands and thousands and thousands of these things out there. So yeah.
There's no sign that, and when the G2 came out, one of the things we talked about was the potential that it would mean the end of life for the Vista generation video transmitters. I still stand by that speculation, though it didn't turn out to pan out that way. That's the nature of speculation. I think it was reasonable to wonder whether DJI would continue a now 3-generation old line of products. But they did. And part of that is that ostensibly the Vista generation and RunCam Link generation are not DJI products. Maybe that has something to do with it. But they show no sign of slowing down. And the V1s, I mean, still function as a goggle. They just don't work with the O3. But yeah, I think if you get it at a good price, like you said, I think it's well worth it.
All right. Comment in the chat says V1 Walksnail is much better. Is that true? I don't have Walksnail.
Is Walksnail better than Vista? That's a tough one. Walksnail uses H.265. I suspect that side by side, a Walksnail image would look better than a Vista image. I still might argue that Vista is a better choice, especially because when you add routing and WTFOS to the equation, you get a really full feature set. The cameras available are very good, and the durability is very good. One of the things that I think Walksnail still could improve on is its durability. I think that the Vista has like legendary, like I'm happy to give Walksnail like, let's say, B tier durability for their VTX. That may be a little generous, but it's hard to know. But like the Vista is like S tier. It's just so hard to kill a Vista. But I think in terms of pure image quality and range, I think probably Walksnail would hold up.
There are more options with it too.
With Walksnail?
So you can do, you have cheaper VTX options, lighter VTX options, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Very flexible. How can I master coordinated turns? Buzz Brody, here's what I would recommend you do if you're trying to work on coordinated turns. First of all, it's just practice and muscle memory. It just takes time. You'll get it. But what I recommend you do is you start a turn, and when you start, here's the horizon, okay? When you start the turn, the horizon will tilt. You following me? Well, actually, the drone is tilted, but you understand. You see the horizon tilt, and now the drone is rotating. If your turn is perfectly coordinated, the horizon will stay at the same angle. If you have too much yaw, as you turn, the horizon will lean out of the turn. It'll flatten back out and lean out of the turn. And if you have too much roll, as you turn, the horizon will tilt and lean into the turn, and the quad will fall over. So what I would suggest you do is get a big open level, climb above any obstacles, fly forward, and initiate a turn. Roll into a turn, or yaw into it. Start a turn. And try to adjust roll and yaw so that the horizon is locked in and not moving in either direction. And that's a perfectly coordinated turn. And the better you get at doing that, the better you'll be able to do at doing it close to the ground faster. James Shields suggests you put your Walksnail VTX in a TPU shield to protect it. Two responses to that, James. Number one, heat buildup. The VTX needs airflow to lose heat. If you put it in TPU, it will melt the TPU. That's not going to work. You need airflow. Number two, the durability is not just about physical impact, it's also about electrical durability. I had a situation some time ago where I had a couple of Walksnail birds. They had the Walksnail full-size VTX in them. And due to a problem with the frame, we had as soon as you took off, the motors would get smoking hot. So this was a frame problem. This is right. But the frame was causing the gyro and the PID loop to freak out, which was causing the motors to freak out. But that was making so much electrical blah, 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 blah. We killed 3 Walksnail VTXs in a row. Like literally, arm, take off, blah, 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 blah. Smoke motor, quad falls out of the air, VTX is dead. And I thought, now these VTXs were powered straight from VBAT. Would they have survived if we had been using a regulator? Maybe. But I thought to myself, I'll bet a DJI video transmitter wouldn't have died. So it's not just about impact, it's about electrical quality. Anyway. Fat Fish 16 radio. Oh, yeah, okay. You guys seen this? The Fat Fish 16. It's got a built-in HD0 receiver. Is it HD0? Fuck, I can't remember. It must be HD0.
I think it's just analog.
Is it analog?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes more sense. With video transmission without. It's got the display built in. Oh, I'm thinking of the...
That was the FreeSky one. FreeSky one, right?
That's the FreeSky one. Yeah.
Like the X20 HD, I think.
Mm-hmm. Is it analog? Where's the antenna for the analog? Dual mode mapping and receiving. What does that even mean? Built-in ELRS. Adapts to LCD mapping receivers. Got some translation issues going on here. Carbon fiber mapping telescopic pole.
They're saying like mapping, right? Like but why would you do that?
It doesn't mean mapping. It means like module or something. The module, oh, it's got an extension cord for the module. Put it on a pole. I guess it's analog. Really interesting. So here's the thing. Is that a display or does it have a built-in receiver?
Oh, that module is the receiver. Okay, that's what's going on here. That module is the VTX or is the VRX.
Oh,
if you
shit.
look on that module, it's RX 5808. So that's a Crossfire, but if you scroll down, their module says RX 5808 on the back.
Oh, plenty. Oh, so that's a VRX module. And then it displays to the radio via an AV input, presumably. So the radio doesn't have a receiver built in. It's just an AV input with a 1000 nit screen. But you can combine it with an external receiver, and then you don't... here's the thing, though. Like, nobody wants to fly off a screen. Want to fly off of goggles.
This seems like a plane kind of thing, but I don't even know that plane people would want to do this. But yeah, it's got like a pole, and I guess you put the pole up with the receiver next to you, and then you can fly with the screen. But that's kind of a...
I can think of some people who would be interested in this. My concern is the quality of the radio. Fatfish, this company I've never heard of. Like, is it going to be a piece of crap? Or is it going to be a good piece of hardware? It's a clever thing. I don't think it's for everybody. But maybe it's for somebody. So what they're saying is you stick this in the back of your radio, and now it's both your video and your control link at the same time. That's clever. Does it have output so you can run it into your goggles AV input if you do have goggles? Because that would also be cool. It's interesting. I was begging Radio Master to do this with the TX16S. I was begging them to do it. I mean, I don't want to overstate it. But I've always thought it would be really cool if the TX16S did this. Even just for bench use. Like, it seems like there was some issue with the screen driver where they couldn't easily do it. Anyway, maybe I'll get one. Maybe I'll review it. All right, guys, we are coming up on the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Do we have any more super chats, Plenty?
We have one.
$10 super chat. I have a Tiny Hawk 2 and a Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle. Some Fat Shark Scouts and a TX16S. What upgrade path do you recommend to move to commercial and digital? Save for Avada 2. EJ, FPV hobbyists, FPV enthusiasts are going to hate me for saying this, but most real estate agents who want to do real estate fly-throughs, well, most real estate agents who want to do real estate fly-throughs should hire a professional FPV pilot to do it for them, because they're going to add value and take time off your plate in a way that really can't be summed up. Okay, having said that, let's assume that either you're a cheap bastard and you're never going to pay somebody to do that, and or you just want to do it yourself because you think it'd be fun. The Avada is the better choice. The Avada 2 can produce really good results. And as a professional, your goal should be to get good results that make you money. If you buy a Cinewhoop, it can do some things that the Avada can't do, but you're going to spend so long learning to fly It's going to take so many hours for a real estate agent who doesn't know how to fly FPV to get good enough at flying FPV that they can produce usable results. Whereas the Avata, it still takes time to learn to fly it, but its ability to just hold altitude and hold position indoors, you're going to progress a lot faster, and it's going to give you good results faster. So I think for a lot of people, the Avata is a good choice. And Ciati makes an even better point. Ciati, I'm glad you're here to point that out. By the way, Ciati will be streaming after me as soon as I get off the air here, and he's going to post the link to his stream. And you should go check him out after you're done with me. A handheld gimbal is an even better choice. There's no reason to fly a drone through most locations. Get a handheld gimbal that will keep the camera and just hold it in your hand and walk it through the space. For a lot of these real estate fly-throughs, a drone is a novelty. So, if you want to learn to be an FPV pilot, go for it. But if you're a real estate agent who just wants results, I think the Avata 2 is going to be able to give you those results way faster and easier than learning to fly an FPV drone. Okay. Everybody have a good Adreno Drones. Thank you for a $2 super chat. I miss you too, man. I'm trying to figure out who you are. Everybody have a good weekend. I will see ya. My upgrades, my live stream schedule will be inconsistent over the next couple of weeks because Fabio's coming into town. I'm going to be spending time with him. But I will still be uploading content. Check my YouTube channel main page. There's a live streams tab where you can see scheduled live streams coming up. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good stream, Ciati. Have a good weekend, everybody.
We got one more super chat.
Damn it. Did you see the new Tiny Whoop documentary? No? Oh, here we go. Tiny Whoop Open 2024 documentary by Infinity Loops. Oh, that's awesome. I gotta check that out.
Every year, around April 20th, people from all over the world flock to Colorado. Normally, they're here to celebrate the local holiday and indulge in the culture. This year, however, some of them were there to compete in one of the wildest Tiny Whoop races around.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Every year, around to celebrate the local holiday.
Second camera angle for no purpose.
This year, however, some of them were there to compete in one of the wildest Tiny Whoop races
I do
around.
like the slow zoom.
My name is Jesse Perkins, and this is the Tiny Whoop Open.
Oh my god, I'm getting copy struck right now. Anyway. Very cool. I have to check that out. Alright guys, that's it. We are out of here.